Good morning, everybody, and happy Mother's Day to any mothers that might be watching with their kids, having a sneak view of what we're talking to the kids about today. I hope you've done all your Mother's Day treats for your mums and are having a really good family time together. So what we're going to look at today is the Bible verses about Jesus and his mum, Mary. And we're going to look at 4 stories and what they tell us about what Mary was like as a mum and what Jesus was like as a son. See what we can learn from that. Okay? So we're going to start with, obviously, we know a lot about Mary in the Christmas story. But then you go, fast forward 12 years, and we've got the story about Jesus in the temple. And it's really interesting in that story that Jesus is trying to find out what his ministry is. He's talking to the priests and everything. His mum and dad are really worried, searching around Jerusalem for him. Finally go to the temple, and his mum says, "Son, why would you do this to us?" And he says, "Mum, surely you of all people would know that I need to be about my Father's business." And it just seems like that right from the start, we just get this little window of, whoa, what is their relationship like? And it's like Mary got all the prophecies, all that inside knowledge about who Jesus was. She obviously passed it on to him. And Jesus, as a 12-year-old, is saying to her, "Mum, you're the one that's always told me that I'm God's son. You know, you're the one that believes in me. You're the one that knows God's purposes in my life. And this is me following it." And he goes back, he submits to his parents. And it's like, even though Jesus is this super special Son of God, as well as being human, the whole thing of submitting to his parents, and it says that he grows in wisdom and knowledge and in favor with God and man. It's who we are supposed to be, whoever we are, we're supposed to be having that relationship of submission and respect and honouring of our parents. Fast forward a whole load more years, and we get to that story that we looked at a few weeks ago, where Jesus has been baptized, he's chosen his disciples, but he hasn't yet started his ministry. And he's at that wedding in Canaan, and his mum comes to him and says, "Son, they've run out of wine. What are you going to do about it?" And he says, "Mom, again, you know, my time hasn't come yet." And it's almost like she knows a little bit more, and she goes to the servants anyway and says, "Whatever he tells you to do, do it." And Jesus does his first miracle there. But again, there's this sense that at this next stage in his life, beginning of his ministry, Mary is there for him. And she's also she's got insight into God's purposes for his life. And she's encouraging him in that path of what God has for him. Fast forward 3 more years, we get to the end of Jesus's ministry, and Jesus is on the cross. That almost final big act of is there. He's dealing with our sin, dying for us on the cross, and Mary's still there with him. It must have been really painful for her to see her own son in that situation. And Jesus is there for his mum too, and he looks down on the cross, he sees her there, he sees John next to her, and he says, "Mum, this is your son now, and John, this is your mum, look after her for me." And even in all his pain, even in everything that he's going through at that moment, spiritually and physically, his mom is there for him, and he's there for her. And then, going after Jesus rises from the dead, he goes back to heaven. And then in the beginning of Acts, first chapter, about verse 14, it says that Jesus has said, "Go back to Jerusalem, wait for my Holy Spirit to come." This is the next chapter in what I want to do in the world. And it says there in the room with the disciples, with all the women that also followed Jesus, was Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brothers. And they're all waiting in prayer and for the coming of the Holy Spirit. So Mary's there throughout Jesus's life and past Jesus's life. And I think we were talking last week on Zoom that our mums have a different relationship with us in different times in our lives. And childhood seems to go on for a long time, but you hit the pre-teens and changes can come quite quickly. And a lot of you were saying how much you'd appreciated your mums and the wisdom that they have and how available they are for you to ask questions to them. And you know, your mum is God's very special gift to you in this stage of your life. And as you're transitioning into teenage years, as you're exploring what God's got for you, as you are negotiating friendships, changes of school, as you're beginning to make decisions, quite big decisions in your life, what school you go to, your GCSE options, your mums are there for you. And I'm really blessed and to see the fantastic gift that you are to your mums and that your mums are to you. And I just thought it would be really useful to just look at, as we're looking at the life of Jesus, to see that parallel with who Jesus and his mum were to each other. Have a great day. Really bless your mums today. With your words as well as your deeds, mums need to know what you're thinking and how you feel towards them. And you need to know that too. Just thinking, you know, what's your mum specifically been to you this year? It'll help you to move that relationship on with her in a way that you need to do. Talk to you a little bit later on Zoom. Have a great day. Bye.